Racism in itself is not just this thing that we just have to address. It is something that actually has created a traumatic experience for us.
LaTasha, there's a new survey about the 2022 elections. Race came into play, abortion came into play. Tell me about the top items and how Black people took those issues to the polls or didn't take those issues to the polls.
Yeah, I think it's really important that Black people care about, we care about our health, safety, and well-being. And that I think part of what you see in the polls is that we care about what is happening in this nation right now. That racism in itself is not just this thing that we just have to address. It is something that actually has created a traumatic experience for us, that ultimately we want to see some real work around that. We want to see some real work around criminal justice reform, not from the perspective of safety being around surveillance, but safety meaning providing services for our community so that we are actually have health and safety. When we're looking at issues around engagement, that we want access to healthcare and other services that impact our community, and access to voting, and we want white supremacy dealt with. It's not enough just to say, oh, that exists. That we want to see policies that actually not only hold the perpetrators accountable, but actually really address systemic racism that is embedded throughout these systems in the country that we're forced to deal with.
We knew the outcomes of all the elections, but why do this study?
I think that it's really important to make sure that we're recognizing what Black voters are thinking about, that there is a nuanced way around having a Black experience in this country that is distinctively different maybe from other communities. And oftentimes what we see is we actually see racism in a subtle way of literally creating this one size fits all, that the points that we're hearing and the issues, the way that they're talked about is really an aim to actually how moderate whites feel in this country, and not necessarily think about how the nuance of a Black experience have us thinking about those issues. And we think about abortion, that for many Black people, what we saw even in this study, that is not that as a separate issue, a standalone issue. That's not how we see it. What we see is we see a larger issue around healthcare access and reproductive rights and reproductive justice. When we're talking about the issue of police, of criminal justice or crime, for us, we're not seeing that as, oh, we're just going to put more money and throw more money in the streets. We're saying that there are real fundamental needs that we have in our communities, and safety is a concern. Matter of fact, I think one of the things that came out in the study is that for Black women, the majority of Black women, we were saying that we don't feel safe, that there is a safety concern. How we address that should be tailored and spoken to in a way that we're saying that we connect with it, right? And not in another way that it becomes another punitive measure towards our community that disrupts our community. And so I think it's important for us to have a study for a number of reasons. One, to really be able to access the voices and the attitudes and have a real analysis based on what we're saying is important for us. And two, to be able to uncover and unearth those issues as we see that we have deemed important, not just because we're responding to what is currently in the national discourse. In our community, people are very concerned about economic security, that they're very concerned about not just what the minimum wage or what their wages are, but what is the projection in terms of what is going to, as they're working, that their dollar stretches, that we have access to make sure that we have access to housing and affordable housing. That is one thing to measure and say the measurement that oftentimes we see, the measurement of economic health in this community is based on how well the stock market is doing, not based on how well we are doing in our families are doing. That there is a need in our community of really being able to recognize that there's policies that can impact how far our dollar stretches, and if we are getting paid a fair wage and being able to get paid what is going to be able to take care of the livelihood of ourselves and our families.